Now, the yoke here is around 2 bulls, and these 2 bulls are being yoked together. And the reason they're being yoked together is because one is being trained by the other. You see, the purpose of a yoke is for a more mature cow or a more mature animal to train a weaker one. So we could say that the brown-faced bull there is like the apprentice. Okay, that's the freshman bull. That's the apprentice here. And then the white-faced bull is the one that's been around it for a while. And you put the weaker bull with the stronger bull, and the yoke will train the weaker one until the weaker one moves over to the left position, and then that is now the stronger one. It can train a weaker one. And the reason Jesus uses this metaphor of yoke is because a yoke controls. It controls where you go. And there is sin in the lives of Christians that controls us. We can't get it out of our minds. It controls what we do. It controls our thoughts. So Jesus uses a metaphor for yoke because it describes something that controls. It also describes something that burdens. There's a weight that's associated with it. And if you've got sin that is burdening you, then you can identify with this. But then look at the way that Jesus uses this. He says, my yoke is easy. Take my yoke upon you. And what Jesus means by that is you come and join me with my yoke. And now you as a weaker brother or sister, you walk alongside me and let my yoke join me and you together. So now you can be trained to walk like me. And when we're being trained to walk like Jesus, we don't bear the weight of that sin anymore. Jesus bears it because he's the stronger one. And that alone is why Jesus wants us to take on his yoke. But we have to realize that we've got to check all the parts of our lives, just like Abraham had to do, to determine what is burdening us. How many of you here have a mom or a dad who, when you entertain in your home, they want to make sure that all the right places in the house are tidy, that your company's going to be in, but they don't care what the bedrooms look like or anything else? Anyone like that? Okay, I think that's most people in North America. So when we have people over into our home, what we do is we send our 4 kids to their rooms and around the house, and we say, clean up the living room, clean up the kitchen, clean up the entryway. Let's make sure it's spotless. Throw everything that was on the floor in every part of the house into the bedrooms and close the doors. And don't let anyone go in the bedrooms. And then your company arrives. You open the front door. You say, well, welcome to our gorgeous house. They walk into the living room. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it so tidy? Well, of course, it always is this tidy. Didn't you know? They walk into the kitchen. Oh, the kitchen's lovely. Isn't your kitchen like this? Well, no. And then you begin to think, wow, everyone lives incredibly clean except us in our house. That's the impression you get. Because there's certain rooms in your house that are off limits to guests. You don't want guests going into your bedrooms. You don't want guests going into your closets and into your wardrobes, do you? Of course not. You see, and the problem when it comes to confession is that often we treat God like a guest. He can come into safe rooms in our house, but there's certain parts in our house that we don't let God in. Certain rooms in our house we don't let God in. And when we don't let God in those rooms, we are not treating him like the owner of the house. We're treating him like a guest. And God, through Jesus, says, let me be Lord in your life, Lord of everything. And through that confession, now, find that freedom and find that safety that only comes through me. So the question I've got for you tonight, and then we're going to watch a video, then I want to show you one last picture, is this question. You've been challenged tonight to think about the story of Abraham. Someone who pushed God off the throne and has something else on there. And by confessing and acknowledging his sin, he received his son back. You heard the story of Joey, a young boy who felt the burden and the weight of shame. And he verbalized to his father what he had done. And he received that freedom. We read about Jesus tonight, about the yoke that he wants us to bear. That's his yoke. And that hiddenness is the way of Satan. It's not the way of God. And all of those ways that are the bad ways are the ways of the crowd. But the way of the cross is very different. And as we sit here tonight, my question for you is, will we follow the way of the crowd or will you follow the way of the cross? Because the way of the cross will bring you freedom. And there's no fear in that confession. But the way of the crowd will take us in a very different direction. Let's take a look at this video and ask that question of ourselves.